Rev up your engines!
Okay, I've been saying this for years. Do not buy the first year of any kind of new production model. Well, there's a lot of journalists out there now that are agreeing with me too. Ford recently came up with their new Ford Explorers and Ford Aviators from their plant in Michigan, and they had all kinds of problems. They were having a new production line. They were coming out with new models. They've had a lot of problems with them. That's why I've always said, don't buy the first year of anything. Kia had problems with some of their dual clutch transmissions and their small turbocharged engines, and what they did was they took those out and didn't use those transmissions and engines, and they put different engines and transmissions in when they found out that the earlier ones were having problems. But, like I've been saying, how would you like to be one of the guys who bought one of the dual clutch transmission or the small 4-cylinder turbocharged engine that have problems? Then you're stuck with that car. Yeah, they figured it out a little bit later, and at least they were smart enough to pull them out before they sold a ton of them. But still, some people bought those and got stuck with them. That's why for years I've been saying, do not buy the first model of anything. People that think they're going to buy that new mid-engine Corvette and buy the first model of it, when they are, you watch, they're going to have problems. They always have problems with new designs. Front engine, rear wheel drive to a mid-engine vehicle, I guarantee you they're going to have problems knowing GM with the qualities of the stuff that's coming out. So really, listen to Scotty. You have no idea what they're going to be like over time, because it's like anything else. Stuff can take a while to break. It might break within a few months, or it might break in a year or two when you're stuck with it. Now, I test out a lot of products myself, and I get a lot of static from the companies that say, oh, you've had that for a couple of months. You haven't made a review of it yet. And I call back and I say, look, I test these things sometimes over years because I don't want to tell people something's good when it isn't. Guys that review stuff, it always breaks me up. A new model of something comes out and the car talk guys say, oh, look, this great car's coming out. Hey, nobody knows till it's been out a while. Me, I'm playing it conservative. I'm waiting till it's worked right. I'm not going to say this is great and then it isn't. Wait till things are out before you get it. Don't just buy the greatest, newest thing, especially when it's a radical new design, because you might get stung, and you're the one who's stuck with the bill, not the people who made them. White Lotus says, Scotty, I have a 2019 Lexus RX 350 all-wheel drive, but I like my VW Tiguan 2.0 Turbo SE 4Motion better. Am I weird? Well, I don't know you personally, so I can't say if you're weird, but let's say this is 10 years in the future. If you still say the same thing, I would say you are insane. Over time, Volkswagens fall apart, and the Lexuses don't. So, if you still have those things 10 years from now, you'll probably say, well, that Lexus is still going strong, but that Volkswagen's falling apart. Now, any vehicle, when it isn't high mileage, it can be a decent vehicle and fun to drive around it. That's how Volkswagen sell their cars. They are fun to drive. They're zippy. But when they break, they cost a fortune to repair, and break they do long before their time. So, if years from now you still say the same thing, I would say you're certifiably insane. But today, if they're both running, well, they're zippy. You can compare them, you know. But in terms of how they're going to last, that Lexus is going to outshine that Volkswagen by a country mile. Tony Rio says, I got a 93 Civic. I replaced the lower control arm since the bushings were bad. The axles, the hub bearing, inner-outer tie rod, and they still have a clicking sound that's driving me nuts. Clicking sounds are generally your CV joints. Each drive shaft, there's one on the left side, one on the right. They have inner CV joints and outer CV joints. It's generally those things that click. You want to check those closely. Now, the other thing that could make a noise, especially if when you hit bumps, is it's so old. The struts have strut mounts that are built in the top. They're rubber and metal. The rubber cracks, then the metal will click. So you want to check that too. It is a 93. It's old. Jamie Felix says, Scott, I have an 04 Chevy Silverado. I bought it once, did the oil change. There were metal specs in there, but the engine runs fine. What would you recommend me to do? There's some kind of wear inside the engine. If you want the absolute best analysis, the next time you change your oil, save some of the oil. Send it to one of these oil analysis companies. Just Google it. There's millions of them out there. They will send you a big printed report and what it means of how it's worn. It's a 16-year-old Silverado. If it runs okay, doesn't make any weird noises, just keep driving it. Because if the engine is worn and something goes out, you're going to have to replace it anyway. These days, there's very few guys that actually repair engines very well. It was done more in my grandfather's days. So, if you did like it and you're going to replace the engine, put a new engine in it. Don't fix yours, especially if it's 16 years old. There's tons of V8 engines out there that people manufacture, so you could get a new one. You don't want to fix your old one, so just baby it. As long as it sounds okay and runs good, live with it. But if you're really curious about how far it's worn, like I say, take the oil. Next time you change it, send it to an oil analysis company. They'll give you a big printout and what it all means. Mr. Dirk X says, I got a Corolla, 2014 2-liter, 180,000 kilometer. After I had a wreck, it got PO172 Rich Bank 1. Change the MAF, intake, ignition coil, spark plug, clean the fuel injectors. Don't know what to do next. Okay. It's only got one bank because it's a 4-cylinder engine. So somehow it's running rich. You said it happened after a wreck. The only thing a wreck is really going to do is either it's going to damage the wiring, and then wiring shorts can lead to a damage of the main computer, or a sensor got damaged. Find a guy like me in your area that can hook up his fancy scan tool, take it for a road test, and then analyze all the live and Mode 6 data. Because some of that is going to show what's going on. It could be that a sensor got damaged, or the wiring, or even the main computer. But it's going to take a mechanic to analyze that stuff that really knows his things. But since you said it's post-wreck, I would assume that it has to do with a wreck. So tell the mechanic what area exactly was wrecked and crushed, and he would look there first for damaged wires and damaged sensors, because it's almost always related to that when you have post-wreck stuff like that, and you changed all the obvious things that would happen from wear and tear. This has got to be some kind of electronic problem that had to do with the wreck itself. Nicholas Samuel says, Scotty, what's the most reliable car of all time? Brand, model, and year. I would have to say, if you're looking at real longevity for something that wasn't that expensive and just lasts and lasts and lasts, something like my 94 Celica. Now, a 94 Toyota Celica, the one I have, is pretty much a Toyota Corolla. Got the same engine, got the same transmission. Now, it's got a different body, rides a little bit better, looks a lot cooler. But in terms of longevity, that Celica or 1994 Toyota Corolla would probably be the longest lasting car you could get. I mean, those things can just last and last and last. They were solid built. The technology wasn't too heavy, so you don't have really complex things to figure out if something does go wrong. And if you're talking about total reliability, not only are Toyotas reliable, but they keep making parts for their cars forever. If you do have a problem, you can get parts for it when it finally does wear out if it has 1,000,000 miles on it. Explorer Van Gogh says, when a mechanic says bulletproof, does he mean it's just fixed a lot of them? He's comfortable working on them. My Iron Duke mail truck keeps blowing engines, transmissions, and rear end twice. If your mechanic says that's bulletproof, then he doesn't know what he's talking about. Bulletproof means exactly that. The bullets bounce right off of it, and they don't have any problems. In that respect, as I was talking earlier, 1994 Toyota Celica is pretty much a bulletproof car. It doesn't really have hardly any problems. It can just keep going and going and going and going. If your mechanic says that the Iron Duke mail truck is bulletproof, he's out of his mind, because they aren't. They just fall apart as they age. Everybody knows that. Bulletproof means that they don't have problems. It's a strong vehicle that's going to last and run and not have problems. Yours is the exact opposite, and if you have a mechanic doing that stuff, I'd switch mechanics. Hazen DeZoo says, Scotty, just bought a 2011 all-wheel drive Ford Escape with 58,000 miles. You talk a lot about crappy SUVs from Chevy and GM, but not Ford. Did I make a mistake? Not if you didn't pay too much for it. I got customers with Escapes that have 190, 200,000 miles, and they're still going okay. 58,000 miles isn't much, so it should still last quite some time. But on the other hand, it is a 9-year-old one, and I hope you didn't pay too much, because they don't have such great resale value. For an American SUV, that's probably one of the better ones that you could buy. You know, I'm personally not an all-wheel drive fan because it adds a lot of technology, a lot of things that break and cost a fortune to fix. If the transmission ever has to be rebuilt, costs a ton more because it's a system that's all-wheel drive. But no, with that kind of mileage, 58,000 miles, it might last you for a really long time. Orly says, why do the French make crap cars? Yeah, man, it's the French. I think maybe they drink a little too much wine when they're either designing or building the things. Now, though, realize that Peugeot just merged with Fiat Chrysler. So we now have the three stooges of Chrysler. The Italians in Fiat and the French in Peugeot building a bunch of cars. So if you think they were crappy before, Let's see what the future comes out with now. Some places in the world, people like French cars, diesel engines, they can be okay and stuff, but, you know, they pulled out of the United States a long time ago. It'll be interesting, though, to see now that they all merged. Let's see if Peugeot is dumb enough to bring their Peugeots into the United States. Like, they brought the Fiats in. They can't give them away. They're talking about pulling Fiat out of the United States. Let's see if Peugeot is dumb enough to bring their French cars in the United States and try to sell them, because I'm telling you right now, if they did, I know the American public. I've been working on cars here for 52 years. Peugeots would fail yet again if they bring them into the United States. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.